Hello everyone, this is Jeremy Monnett from Sonex Aircraft, and I'd like to spend just a few minutes going through a Onex tail kit. I figured it was a fun way. I'm actually in the process of putting our horizontal tail display back together, so I thought this would be a fun way to do a video of it going together for those that wanted to keep track of actual time that we would spend doing so. First, a real brief introduction. This is a set of Onex tail plans. This is really just a subset of the full Onex plan sheet or plan set. This happens to be the 3-view, some very basic information of the Onex, just showing the tail dragger and the tri-gear versions. And that 3-view is Onex B01 drawing. The second drawing in the Onex tail plans is the Onex B02, which is the description of the drawing system, and that goes through some of the part callouts and dash numbers and next assembly blocks. I'd invite anyone, regardless of their building experience, to spend some time going through this B02 drawing and familiarize yourself with how we do things on the Sonex prints. Everything you need is here on the prints, if you trust them and if you use them. This is perhaps the most important drawing, and that is the Onex B03 drawing tree. It's the third page in all, whether it's the full plan set or the tail plan set. And you can see we've actually grayed out all the plans that are not in use for this tail kit project. So the only plans that we'll be using for the tail kit project are these 4 that go with the vertical tail assembly, these 4 that go with the horizontal tail assembly, and then the 3 that we've been looking at, the drawing tree, the drawing system, and the 3-view. So I'm actually going to take some time and step you through the horizontal tail assembly process using the plans. And you can see I really only need 3 plans in order to do this. The Onex T04, which is the tail substructure detail print. I need the Onex T03, which is the tail spar assembly print. And I need the Onex T02, which is a horizontal tail and elevator assembly print. So only those 3 prints. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the first one, which would be the Onex T04. As a general rule of the drawing tree, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. So for this assembly, we're going to start at the highest number, in this case the Onex T04. And here is what the Onex T04 print looks like. And I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner and just do a quick inventory of these parts to make sure I have them all on the shelf behind me here, on the table, before I begin work. The first one I'm going to direct you to, every part number will begin with the print that it's called out on. In this case, it will be the Onex T04 dash and a number. The first one I'm going to look at is in the upper left-hand corner. That's the dash 05, horizontal forward spar strap. That's this part, Onex T05. This is as you would receive it in your tail kit. You can see there's actually some leftover residue from the laser. That's actual flash after it's blown out the hole. And here's what the other side looks like, very clean with the hole locations. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure, obviously, that I have the T0405. And I'm going to spend some time with the flash. You can see it cleans up fairly readily just with a deburring tool, a couple turns of that, you can knock off the flash. And this is what the part, the Onex T05 will look like once I've cleaned up all the holes. I've just run a 3/32 drill all the way through all the holes and done the bending, which will actually happen on the next print. But that gives you an idea of what that part looks like. So there's the T0405. I have that one. Moving right along, I want the T0407, R and L. That's these component parts. So there's the Onex T0407L and 07R. So now we're going to move to the next part on the list, and that is the Onex T0407. That's the next one down. And you can see these are what the Onex T0407s look like. There's both a right and a left part, which will be clearly labeled right on the part. There's a left, and here is a right. You can see they're just exact opposites of each other. So we have those. The next part is the T0409 horizontal rear spar strap. And this is what the Onex T0409 looks like. And by the way, another note, it's on the scale of the print is listed. In this case, most of these part details are 1/4 scale. And if they're not, they're noted what the scale is if it's different. But this one, this Onex T0409, you can see I've already gone through and cleaned it up. I've drilled everything up to 3/32 of an inch and cleaned it up with a deburring tool. Next up we have, we'll move over now, the Onex T0404 R&L. That's the 2 leading edge ribs, and that's what those look like. Again, exact opposites of each other, the only difference being the holes that they have on the little flange. The next part is the T0403. These are the short ribs, and these are symmetrical, so you just have 2 of exactly the same rib, the T0403. Next up we have the T0402 R&L. So these are not symmetrical. They are also a right and left due to the slight angled flange, the forward side of the flange, having unsymmetrical holes on both sides. So that's an R and an L. Next up we have the T0701 R&L. This is what those look like. They have the longer flange on them with the hole pattern that interfaces with the forward spar. And they are also R&L for the same reason. Those holes are actually shifted on that flange to one side. Moving down, we have the T04-10, and that's this nice long, this is actually the rear spar of the horizontal stab, goes from one end to the other. Then we have some angle parts down here. We have the T04-12. And those of you that got an early tail kit, we actually used an Sonex T0303, so your part will be labeled with either one of those two. The T0303 just needs to be bent a little more and have the holes put in one flange. But these T0303s have been modified to be a T04-12. You need 2 of those, exactly the same parts. Moving over, the T0406. That is this horizontal spar attach bracket. You can see that's at scale 1/2, just like the horizontal rear spar attach brackets were. We got 1 of those. The T0408, you can see we're starting to develop this Onex language. All these parts have their own identifier, their own word, if you will. You'll be using that throughout. Onex T0408, horizontal rear spar attach, also 1 of those. We also have some piano hinge. I'm not going to worry about that yet for the purposes of this exercise, this demonstration. And then we have the skin in the lower left-hand part of the page, the Onex T0411. And there is actually an R and an L of the 11. And if you look close, we actually have 2 dimensions at the bottom of the skin for the holes offset. If the holes are 1/2 inch from the edge, that indicates it's the bottom of the skin. So you can see with this skin, I've actually labeled it bottom for the holes that are 1/2 inch edge distance on this side. So I know that this is actually the right-hand skin. Set that aside. And here, see it's all bent to shape with the pilot holes put in it, is the T0410L, the left-hand skin. And again, I've labeled it. I love using Sharpies on metal parts. It's easy to erase later if you need to. So there's the bottom of the left-hand skin. So go ahead and set that aside. So now we are sure we have all of the individual parts from this print, and we're ready to go to our first assembly. We're now ready to move to our first assembly. This is the next drawing is actually the lower number, Onex T03. And this drawing is the horizontal tail spar assembly drawing. You can see it's a pretty simple print. I got clecos all over it right now. But there's only a few things to do here. There's one detail part, and that is the Onex T0303, where we're actually going to use part from the previous print, the T0405, to go ahead and open up all the holes, clean it up, and bend it per this template. So now in the new version of this print, we actually have a full-size template. You can set this on and check the bend angle. And all you're essentially doing is taking both sides of this part and bending it on a bending brake to get the correct angle for the forward spar strap. So there you are. You can use the print actually as your check to make sure you have the correct angle and the correct bend location. So that's becomes, once you're done with it, the Onex T0303. So that's the first part we have there. The first assembly we see here, moving down the page, is the 01 forward spar assembly. And only a few parts are involved here. They're all called out by part number. If they're a native part to the page, for example, this 03 we just bent up, it'll be called out as a -03, horizontal forward spar strap, the one required. The other few parts that are used in this assembly, the Onex T0407L, that's this piece of channel, the 07R, this piece of channel, as well as the Onex T0406 horizontal spar attach bracket. So we're going to go ahead and cleco these just as it's shown. We got a top view in this and a side view of it. So we're going to go ahead and put this in place. We're going to put our first cleco in place, and this is what's nice, really nice about the matched hole technology. We're able to just plop some clecos in place and let them snap. So just going to put a couple in this angle to get in the right place. And the angle, again, the holes are not symmetrical. They're offset to one side of the part. So we're going to make sure that this attach angle is actually flush with the bottom of the strap. Then we're going to take the channel and we're going to put it on the correct side as shown in the print. The channel actually goes on the same side as the angle bracket. So we're going to put a couple of clecos in this as well. And you can see how quickly this assembly work can go. It really starts looking like an airplane in a big hurry. At least looking like some sub-assemblies should. If your biggest issue are getting your clecos to work, you're doing pretty darn well. So that's the starting of the first -01 forward spar assembly. Okay, the next assembly I'll be showing you on the Onex T03 print is at the bottom of the page, and that is the -02 main aft spar assembly. So you can see I have all the parts set aside here, kind of in the stack up that we need. The Onex T0303s, or actually the other angles you would use, the Onex T0412 that we already talked about. That's what those look like if you have the actual Onex parts. The Onex T0408 rear spar attach bracket, kind of going from top to bottom. That's what the stack up looks like. The next one, or actually front to back in this case. Next up, Onex T0409 is a horizontal rear spar attach strap. And then finally the horizontal rear spar, or aft spar channel is what we call it, Onex T0401. So now I'm just going to restack those together. And all the holes just kind of magically align. That's the beautiful thing about laser cut parts and machined angle parts. It's amazing how quickly you can put some of these assemblies together. Now I know that I'm going to be assembling this from the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of clecos on the outboard side, not at the rib location, right next to it. That's going to hold my aft strap to my channel. And again, there's really no magic to how you do this with clecos. You can use as many or as few as you want. You're going to have to be taking everything apart after you up drill it to deburr it anyway. So, you know, I always like to use as few clecos as I possibly can to hold the assembly together. And it guarantees I'll be able to get it back apart easily later. Just kind of stitches together, it's pretty nice. You see, I haven't drilled any holes, nor will I in any of this demonstration. This is as the parts are received from the factory, they will simply stitch together like this. I'll come up with this one. It'll actually come from the back, and these really long reach clecos. And there is my -02 main aft spar assembly. All right, we're now going to move to our next assembly, which we'll find on print Onex T02, and this will actually be the 01 horizontal tail assembly. I've started here by laying out the ribs as they would be located per the print, so we'll just be clecoing them in place as we go. A couple of notes I wanted to make before that. First off, on material finish, this is the forward spar assembly, and I wanted you to note there's the laser cut process or the water jet process, however we cut out the parts, leaves some grooves. You can actually see them, and you can feel you run your fingernail on them. One of the biggest mistakes we see in the construction of these metal aircraft is not finishing these edges properly. When they are properly edge finished, and we use a little file like this Vixen file, a very rough saw file, you can see it doesn't take very much work at all to just run the file over these parts and start to make those ridges disappear. And it's extremely important, critically important actually, that those edge finishes be something like that. Just a very nice smooth finish where you can run your fingernail over it and not feel any kind of ridge in it. Very, very important. So that's a Vixen file, a rough cutout file. You can do most of the work with that. So now we're going to take our forward spar assembly. Another note to make, it's actually offset one way. So you can see here where the strap is actually offset high, and that's because the horizontal tail on the Sonex actually sits at an angle of attack, so with the leading edge pointing downward. So it's very important that you get that aft strap on the upper portion, and that's where the angle flange would be the bottom of the horizontal stab. Same case with the angle flange on the T0408 aft attached bracket. You want to make sure that bracket is obviously on the bottom, and that's how you're going to assemble it. So I just take my forward spar assembly that I finished on the previous print, and the prints will actually show you to finish these with rivets, which will help you even more because things won't be moving on you with just a few clecos in place. And now we're gonna, you see I took each of the ribs and the approximate locations that they're at, and I'm just gonna work my way from the inboard on out, again taking a look at the TO2 and making sure all these ribs are in the right location. The R and L designators obviously really help you determine where these are gonna go. So I'll take a handful of clecos here, and I'll begin that process of stitching this together. So again, there's no real magic. I personally think it works best if you start at the root and kind of work your way to the tip. But there is no right or wrong here. And again, we got all these pre-punched holes for us, so it's pretty easy just to start stitching it together. And if it doesn't work, you know something's not in the right location. You want to move it and looks good. So that's the, I just attached the 01 L. Obviously in the wrong location. And we'll do the right side. Want the 01 off. Again, those indicators, those part numbering things, very, very helpful. Trust them. You can see these ribs actually go on the inside of the attack brackets. And I'm using this as this is going to be on display in our booth and at our facility for a while, so I'm doing it so the clecos are on the inside. Again, there's no magic as long as you clear the rest of the assemblies as to which direction the clecos go. And we're going to confirm. And all of the flanges here, because of the angle of this, the flanges actually face inboard on these two outside ribs. So I want to make sure that we orient those properly. A handful of clecos. Tiny ribs toward the tip, or the smallest ribs toward the tip, are exactly the same, so it doesn't matter right or left which one. Clecos have been used and abused, so they're hard to replace sometimes. I'm going to do exactly the same on the right side. My flanges again face inboard. And I'm going to do the same thing with the tip ribs here. Again, you can cleco them from the outboard end, but I'm going to cleco them from the inside just so they're hidden from view for this display. And those are the tip ribs. That is actually the T0804 is the tip rib, T0403, T0402, T0401. And then this is the rear spar assembly and the forward spar assembly. So I've now attached all the ribs to the aft spar. Again, there's no magic. Whoops, this tip rib. There's no real magic to doing it this way. This is just kind of one way. As long as you get all the right parts in the right place, I'm happy. I'm going to bring in the forward spar, put that in place, and start moving my way down the clecos. And same thing, same reasoning, I'm kind of going to get this where it needs to be. So kind of work from the tip here. Clecos we have here at the shop in various states of disrepair. Okay, I'm just kind of working my way along the forward spar here. Hanging you up. You can always find it. Final clecos I'm going to put in here at the forward spar location. And And you can see the tip rib, the same offset is the case, so it has some cleco holes that are offset, so it's actually going to attach right there with those offset clecos. So I think I'm just going to install that with one through the center here. Lines up the spar behind it, and that's going to look great. And I'm going to go ahead and finish clecoing the left-hand side, and then we'll add the skins. And now for the final process in the horizontal tail assembly, or at least getting it to a basic process, is the actual skinning process. So we're going to take the skins just like they came out of the box. Again, the only thing I've done to these skins is went ahead and labeled them, bottom, top, right hand, left hand. So I know I'm looking at the top of my horizontal stab. Again, with the angle orientation and knowing that it's the leading edge is actually shifted down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and start clecoing it in place. This is the greatest part about aluminum airplanes, guys, is your skins are actually your tooling. So I'm going to take my left hand skin, and you can see I slid the horizontal tail assembly just forward on my table here, and I'm just going to take the top and I'm just going to set it on. And I'm going to get it aligned, and I'm just going to start putting some clecos in it. You know, again, it doesn't really matter what order you're going to go in because it's going to fit. You're just going to start putting the 3/32 clecos in. And again, how many you use is really up to you. The process at this point, assuming that you followed the prints and gotten your spar assemblies all together per print with rivets in them and got them nicely finished and got your bolts in place that are on the prints to do, then pretty much you're going to be clecoing these with the silver clecos and then up drilling to the 1/8 inch and getting prepared to put the blind rivets in them. So that is the process, and it's really easy, again, having it hanging over the table like this, to be able to get under and move a rib if you need to into position. Or you'll find the clecos actually work pretty well for being grabbers and being able to move them. So for the purposes of this, I'm really just going to put a few clecos in this. And a few on the forward spar here. This is so much fun building an airplane when you have parts like this. Just knowing everything's put together. So it's pretty hard, again, if you use these parts as supplied, the biggest mistake, I guess, that I see, or if I do see one, it's building twists and surfaces. So you can see for for this demonstration, I'm just kind of using a portable table, but the flatter the work surface you have, the better. So when you do start to up drill, you don't build a twist into the actual part. So you can see I've now completed the upper left side. Now I'm going to grab my right skin. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Just going to put it in place. And same thing, I'm just going to choose a few key clecos, or a few key holes here to put clecos in and get them started. Pretty sweet. And see, it might go a little bit as everything finds its place. Cheat it over, technique like that. I can reach from the other side if I wasn't trying to not block the camera. Out here at the tip. And down airplane on the floor, so I'm going to kind of guard it over here. Gotcha. So there you have it. So now I don't want to hurt my tips that are sticking out there. So I'm just going to take it and flip it over. I'm going to pull it away from the table, and I'm going to set it on the clecos that I had there. And we've already placed the bends in the skins for you, so you don't have to worry too much about the location of those bends. You can just bring it down, and I would just try to get whichever hole would be convenient for you without damaging your skin. So this is where the experience of clecos comes in handy. And we'll just pull it into position. And for the purposes of this, I'm just going to stick a few on the rear spar there. I'm running out of clecos. And the same thing, I'm just going to stick a few here in the trailing edge. And you can see now I'm just going to start working my way forward at each of the positions, getting everything clecoed in place. And I'm going to up drill and rivet. And you have yourself what is a very motivational start to your Onex. That's a good part of your tail kit right there, already complete. Good luck.